Hello everybody and welcome to Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs, a stream where we are all trapped in the belly of this horrible machine and the machine is bleeding to death. Oh hey, Funkstar's in the chat. What's up, Funkstar? Good to see you. Alright. Ooh, it's quite loud. If you are just joining us, welcome. It's good to have you, and if you've been before, welcome back. It's great to see you again. So, last time we did a whole bunch of things. Last time we navigated most of Yahar'gul, the Unseen Village, and what else did we do? We navigated most of Yahar'gul, the Unseen Village. Oh yeah, that's it. We fought the Dark Beast, Paul, the Shock Doggo. They were not very friendly, but neither were we, so I respect that encounter. But we walked away and they didn't. We had some thoughts about the moon. We had some thoughts about structural monstrosity, and then we fought the One Reborn, a physical manifestation of humanity's inability to reconcile the perceived monstrosity of the divine with the sort of the weakness of humanity. Hey Regression, hey Lady of the Limericks. Oh, hang on, while you're here, before we kick off the rest of this stream, I'm going to do a thing, because it's been a while. It's been a long time coming, so just very quickly I'm going to arse around with the stream dashboard. It'll take like 2 seconds. Bonk. There we go. Okay. That's better. Cool. So yeah. And then defeating the One Reborn gave us access to a grand plaza at which some type of a sacrifice had taken place. And yeah, so the thing about that was all the way around the rest of the plaza, in fact it was a lead up to this big old building. Oh, Ali's here. Hey Ali. Yeah, it was a lead up to this big old building, absolutely stacked to the gills with people sitting around with cages on their heads. Loads and loads and loads of them. And upon tapping the shoulder of one of them, we ended up here. A place that we're being told is the lecture building, second floor, which we've briefly found previously, but from a different angle. So we're going to go from this angle first, because it's the one I'm best equipped to talk about. Oh my gosh, it's Claire. Hey Claire. All the good friends are in the chat this evening. All the good friends come down for the House of Eyeballs, which is good. I love it when that happens. So, a number of things are going to happen in this stream, and I guess if I'm sort of continuing my pattern of giving you food for thought so you can have the right ideas on the tip of your mind by the time we run into them in the game, I guess the things that we want to talk about here are like this idea of like the idea that we've encountered so far of this pursuit of knowledge, of the divine. Ooh, that's very loud. This pursuit of knowledge of the divine and the ways in which it has unbelievably loud. Good heavens. Can you hear me over that at all? Is it just really loud here? Because I think I've got it mixed down in OBS, so it should be listenable, but it's not really listenable on this angle. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just take all the softness out of my voice. Okay, this is the loudest possible sound, so as long as you can hear me after this, I think we're okay, because I don't think it gets any louder than this ever again. That's like, the crows were loud, and then there's this. Fear the old blood, fellas. Fear it. By the gods, fear it. Okay, that's a bit better. Got some volume back down. So yeah. Got a nice bit of blood damage there. So yeah. The ideas that we want to be thinking of at the moment is this pursuit of knowledge, pursuit of the understanding of the divine, the ways in which it has warped and changed the people who have sought this knowledge, and I guess the ways in which they have failed and the way those failures have manifested themselves. Like, this is one of Bloodborne's many sort of micro arcs, I guess, and it begins with the arrival in Yahar Ghul, the fight with the One Reborn, and it will conclude at the end of the game, but we'll get a sort of small payoff, I guess, as we fight the next area boss. And I'm really looking forward to it because it means I can get less vague about the various things I like about this game and start talking about the ways its themes actually come together, rather than doing what I've been doing so far, which is talk about the ways in which the themes gently approach convergence, but don't ever quite get there. So we're approaching Payoff Town, and once this game starts paying off, it really, really starts paying off. See these lecture theatres? We've been here. Oh, that animation is just so good. I love it. I love it to pieces. Long boy. That's cute. Our gun does as much as our first sword strike. That's very funny. Oh, I see, this was here the whole time. Okay, sure. Ooh, another floor note. Love these. Master Willem was right. Evolution without courage will be the ruin of our race. So, everybody remembers what Master Willem was, right? Master Willem was that chap we saw on the rocking chair on the sort of pier at the Bergenworth Observatory. He was sat in a rocking chair, sort of looking out to the sea. We found that later that he had sequestered away Ron the Vacuous Spider, who had gained eldritch knowledge through contact with Ebrietas, the as yet sort of unclear cosmic entity. But his mantra was that we should fear the old blood, that blood was the strongest force, the essence of humanity was the strongest force available to anyone, and that to mess with it would be to invite our own peril. And the people here at this lecture building, quite some distance from the Bergenworth Observatory at which Willem has sequestered himself, one of them has clearly decided that Willem was right, that they were wrong to spurn his advice. So like, that gives us, I guess, an insight into the kinds of things that were being done here, right? Hunt the great ones. Hunt the great ones. So, what indeed are the great ones? Because we've heard some mention of the great ones, right? In some of the item descriptions that we love in our lore. Oh, got a friend. Rude. Where have they mentioned great ones? It's in the... hang on. Not here. Not here. Here. Great one's wisdom. Ta-da! And indeed the madman's knowledge. Right. So even comprehension of these things, you know, turns you into it turns your head into a skull, rots your brain, weird explosions come out of it, you know, these strange star-like protrusions come out of it. And yet here we are. We need more eyes to think about these great ones, not only so that we can comprehend them, but in the case of the lecture building scholars, the sort of the faction of scholars, we seek to hunt them. But to what end? Ooh, lots of notes here. The nameless moon presence beckoned by Lawrence and his associates. Pale blood. So, this then is an explicit reference to this idea that we explored in first in the Hypergean jail, and then again in Yahar'gul. Will has just realised some visual symbolism that I will get to, but it's good that you've noticed. Yes. So yes, the nameless moon presence beckoned by Lawrence. So yes, this is an explicit reference to the thing that we saw mentioned first in the Hypergean jail, and then when we went back through in Yahar'gul, this idea that the moon itself, or something related to the moon itself, is this idea of pale blood. Now they don't know. They don't know its name, but they know that it was beckoned by Lawrence. Now, if we remember, Lawrence was our friend who led the faction who were opposed to Willem, right? The people who sought to understand, control, and exploit the old blood, where Willem decided it was best left well enough alone. And this is where, one of the sort of, I guess, tensions at the heart of the power relations of Bloodborne comes to fruition, I guess, is at this point in the game, where as we realize, actually no, hang on, no, there's a little bit more payoff that 3/3 chords. There's a little bit more payoff we haven't got to yet that we will get to, and then I will start talking about that. But yeah, the tension at the heart of the School of Byrgenwerth is one of Bloodborne's, one of the things with which Bloodborne is most preoccupied, I would say. Yeah, 3/3 chords. Hey, wait a minute, we've got one of those, right? But what? What about them? Well, I guess we'll wait until we have 3 and see what we can do with them then. Hi, Kazim Hazan. Welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoy what you see. I hope it's fun for you. We're probably not going to fight that thing right now. I mean, we could, but we're not going to. What we are going to do is talk about this visual symbolism that Will has noticed. So, one thing that you're not really given any inclination to think about when you first open up a madman's knowledge is this wisp of light coming out of the top of it, right? Like, it's just a protrusion, right? But then you get a Great One's wisdom, and suddenly, your mind is able to draw a line between these two things, right? Because now, instead of being a single wisp of explosion from one skull, it's now the same pattern, lots and lots of times, layered on top of each other. So you think, where have we seen this before? And the answer turns out to be here. The phantasms that partially summon Ebrietas, which is, it's not like revelatory or anything, but it's neat that they've hidden this symbology here from minute 1 of Bloodborne. That is super cool. Hey, Fidgety Frolic, K-Flow Taro, welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy yourselves. We are going to open these doors and progress further into the nightmare. So, welcome to the nightmare of Menses. So, yeah, a lot of skulls already. Good start. A lot of, faces wrapped together into the walls. Now, if we remember, Menses was the name given to the ritual that was meant to be beckoning the moon that we heard about in Yahar'gul, right? So, you know, maybe we have a shot at stopping that ritual if we end up here. Gunrun is in the chat asking how spoilery it would be to watch this stream. I'm gonna say very. Probably the most. Okay, yeah, Gunrun, if the last thing that happened was that you were kidnapped by the Bagman and taken to Yahogul, then we're like multiple layers of spoilers ahead of where you want to be watching. So yeah, anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled on the exact nature of Bloodborne, pretty much through to the end, should probably dip, because we're about to kill one of 3 bosses that, should you so choose... No, wait. Can you end the game after this boss? Well, basically, we're very near the end, so yeah, don't stick around if you don't want to be spoiled. But we shall continue, and just one thing before we do continue is I want you to look at this greenery. Look at the images, like, think about like the shape and sort of silhouette, I guess, of this plant life before we continue, because it's going to come up again. So, big old Gothic tower, skull rocks turn into regular rocks, and we continue. Baby cries in the distance. Don't know if you can hear that. I sure can. Every time there is what I thought was silence. It's like tinnitus, but with a wailing child. So here's a new enemy. I promise we'll fight on even terms eventually. Can I turn it upside down? Come on. Come on, Havoc Physics. You can do it. Nope. Okay. Well, we tried. We'll see another one, I'm sure. Yeah, the enemy design is something I'm probably going to be talking about at some length here, because it's good. You. More chunks. So even though we've fully upgraded our sword up to, I think we're at 9 now, right? Yeah. So we need a rock to fully upgrade this. So chunks are of no use to us for upgrading this, but they still upgrade our pistol, which actually is not even the best it can be yet. So this is a neat setup, right? Item, always used to like drag you towards points of interest in a level in these games, right? So you walk over. Horrible, horrible screaming noise. And also this here, right? What the hell is going on over there? And then you look down, and the ground itself appears to be emanating a strange... It looks kind of like a reed, or maybe some kind of sort of steam of like blood. And then this chap here, rather than the regular kind of dead, just, you know, well dressed and dead, you see they're like dressed kind of like a hunter. And also, there's a lot of horrible spears protruding from this body, right? But they're like stuck all the way through. Like, they're not stuck into the body, they're stuck out of it. And on them we find some frenzied cold blood. A mind teetering on the very brink. Do you remember, like, 20 hours ago we talked about the potential significance of the idea of frenzy scaling with your insight? Yeah, it turns out we're going to explore that at some length here. also, only when we can see it does that whatever is in there scream at us. So let's continue. See that? Ooh, lantern. Need that. So a little spike exploded out of our body as our frenzy meter increased. Interesting. Wow, that's very loud. But it's not just us, right? They are also getting spiked. Oof, that is not very much damage. It's kind of uncomfortably loud. Why is this happening? Oh, maggots! Oh yeah. So these things produce maggots. And not the regular innocuous kind, the giant, horrible kind. Yes, there is an innocuous kind of maggot. So, yeah. Grim. So, this enemy design I like a lot, because... So we've talked at some length about the wolf-like denizens of Yharnam, right? The people whose repressed feelings and desires got the better of them to the point that it shifted and changed their bodies, like grew on them this wiry hair, made them aggressive, made them toothy, and like then we saw in Yahar'gul, we saw like a progression of that, right? Because normally we've seen them turn into these big muscly wolf things, and with these big muscly wolf things, and then we saw them turn into these big muscly wolf things with just a ton of extra legs that they didn't really need, just like body parts falling off them at every which place. And like this does this thing that we talked about before with the like in the Forbidden Woods, right? It shows a different potential pathway for this kind of monstrosity to evolve, right? Because it's not bulky, it's not, you know, it's not monstrous in the same way. It's kind of wiry and gross, right? And its body houses these maggots, which is a very, very cool, like, divergence for that. It also looks remarkably like that sort of devil type thing we found right at the bottom of the abandoned workshop, which is a nice visual parallel that I'm into, because that enemy, as far as I'm aware, does not appear anywhere else in the game, but it has some clear cousins here, which is cool. Another thing worthy of note is these things are affected by frenzy, which if it scales with your insight, like, not only does it tell us that they are conscious to the point that they... Oh, hang on, is my volume too high? I might... Oh my gosh! Being raided by Nathalite Dish! Thank you so much for the raid! Okay, anyone who is just joining us from Nathalite Dish's stream, welcome. This is Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs. We are playing Bloodborne. It is a sort of extensive... well, hopefully extensive analysis of the themes and ideas at play in From Software's Bloodborne. However, anyone who does not want to be spoiled on From Software's Bloodborne should leave immediately, because we're very close to the end, and the themes are starting to converge in a very final way. But hello everyone, thank you for coming. Right, yes. So where was I? This enemy design is very cool. I like it. Yeah, that's it. They clearly possess some kind of awareness of something to be able to have this frenzy. Look at that, like spears just appear on your body. This idea is that, like, That one just completely died to frenzy, and now it's got maggots all over the witch place. Basically, what I'm getting at here, is that the idea at play here is... Oh no. Okay, what I'm getting at here is the idea at play here with frenzy, that it scales with your insight, it scales with your knowledge of, the true state of the world, like, it scales with your awareness, right? The idea is the more that you know, the more the more aware you are, like, it makes reconciling, like, the truth of the universe all the harder. And this is something that Lovecraft thought about, like, extensively. Like, obviously, the way that he did it was always be that the truth of the universe would, like, make you feel insignificant. It would drive you to madness, and you would be unable to function as a human being anymore. Even if the ways in which he expressed that were completely boring. But the thing in this case is, like, it makes the how are we still? Oh Jesus! Come on. So that was neat, right? They did a little shock. Where have we seen that before? But yeah, so in a rare example, Bloodborne is even less subtle than H.P. Lovecraft, wherein his... like, Bloodborne's depiction of these events is the idea that knowledge of the cosmos makes you physically more vulnerable to, like, physical injury from, I guess, nefarious cosmic forces, right? What is the... I don't even recognize that thing. Oh no. Which way are we going to go? There's so many ways. Let's go this way. I want to go up there. Oh wait, there is no way this way. Never mind. Okay. But yeah, so like the pain of knowing literally stabs at you. Like, confrontation with these ideas is dangerous. And when they overwhelm you, like, it's too much. It literally pins you to the spot. But these forces, like, they don't come from without, they come from within. It's super cool. Okay, this is horrid. I hate this. Ooh, okay. We're going to have to do some quick footwork here. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, this is definitely some very, like, Lovecraftian imagery, right? Some clear Lovecraftian imagery. Like, he was very big into describing the idea of, like, the inset head and the elongated, but sort of like, what's the word? Like, just the sort of the elongated thin limb, the sort of, there's like a word I'm missing. It's really good, but I can't think of it. I don't know, but I like the sort of the moist skin, I guess, was something that Lovecraft was very big on. Something he liked to talk about at length. There's a lot of blood on us. Okay, so. We're gonna go in there, but first we're gonna make sure we got everything out here. Because there are things. This is a Soulsborne game. They hide the things. More chunks. Good, good, good. We like those. Plants. Interesting. I know it sounds weird, but I mean, if you know what I'm getting at, you know what I'm getting at. If you don't know what I'm getting at, think about the plants. It's important. I promise. Oh, that one's just there, huh? Is he guarding anything? I'm gonna guess he's not. Clammy skin. That was something that Lovecraft liked a lot. Which, you know, he was a pretty clammy guy, so I don't know why he was so eager to talk shit about people with clammy skin, but hey, here we are. So, there are spiders' webs with eyeballs in them. Maybe this is the house of eyeballs that we were looking for. Huh. Oh yeah, spider content warning, I guess. But, spiders, there's a few of them. Can I avoid them? I don't know if I can avoid them. But yeah, this is an interesting idea, right? The idea of spiders creating like a natural, because we have our massive human-made structure, right? Like this massive Gothic architecture here is a pretty effective short and longhand for the labors of man to create, well, the labors of humanity to create structure. But like, it's purposeful that here we have these spiders and their webs and the eyes. Now, the the explicit ideas of the game so far have led us to believe that the eyes are correlated with, that was it, the Great Wisdom's flavor text. Like, Master Willem explicitly tells us that what we need is more eyes. And here we see that, like, clearly human structure has failed to facilitate these eyes in the way that this natural structure has, right? See that? It's neat. It's neat visual storytelling. It's working really well. And where else have we seen spiders in this game but with our friend Rom, who herself became like something of a natural structure just through, if I go out there I'm going to get ganked. I'm going to kill some spiders. See, I feel like if I aggro one of these spiders, I will aggro all of these spiders, and things will go from bad to worse at an astonishing clip. But let's test that theory. Ooh. Okay, well, there we go. No? Okay. Not bad. So yeah, Rom herself became a natural structure to support the vast number of eyes her body had begun to sprout, right? Like, she was running on a surplus of eyes, and that recurrence of spider imagery and the idea of natural structure is purposeful. I like it a lot. Okay. We're not gonna get ganked just yet. So we get a really cool shot, like, oh, these broken cages, they're so cool. Oh, I just love the aesthetic of this game. So yeah, Kin Cold Blood. I think this is the first of these that we found. Unspeakable blood echoes, a cold blood of inhuman kin of the cosmos, brethren of the great ones. dare not to delve into the world beyond humanity, the eldritch truth touched upon long ago at Bergenworth. So, this hierarchy is starting to become clearer, right? Like this idea that there are these great ones, and we seek to learn about them, but those who know, those who are closer to knowledge than we, regularly inform us that it's a bad idea, don't do it. Like, this is something that will come up more and more and more as the game draws further to closer to its conclusion, is this idea of people who have brushed with or come to know divinity ending up maybe the worse for it, or maybe just different, but their perception on whether that is the better or the worse like varies quite significantly from person to person, and that's really interesting. This idea that, you know, you will go into the pursuit of knowledge of your history, your heredity, and the nature of being, believing that progress is like just a straight line, but by the end of it you'll realize that it's a lot more textured than that, that how you feel about it by then will be very different. What's up, spoilers? Terrible hit points. Ow, ow. So yeah, it's kind of like a, you know, an Odyssey thing. Like, can you ever go home when the journey changes you? Except it's like, can you ever go home when the journey changes your understanding of the nature of being? Ooh, hello. I think I'm just gonna... Oof. Ooh, just... Yep, here they come. Womp womp. She big. Hello. There's a hunter there. Oh, these spiders are all gonna make it out. This is gonna go very, very badly. Hello. Ah, so long friends. Okay. What is the plan here? Is there a plan? There might not be a plan. Hello. What up? Roll, do it. Oh no, the spiders are here. Well, we died. That's a lot of echoes. I don't know if any of you heard it. You probably didn't hear it. There was a lot of sword and spider noise happening, but oh, this is a very long way back. I think we can probably run most of the way. Yeah, let's run. Womp womp. So we don't pop our frenzy on the way there. Ooh, loud fire noises. Ah. Running is made worse by the existence of the frenzy source. Can you stop frenzying? Ow! Whoa, that's big damage. Good heavens. I think my computer volume must be too high, because these sounds are not meant to be this loud. No Rocky me. Please no Rocky. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to check the volume levels are right, because maybe they are, maybe they're not. If they're not, then I'll fix it. If they are, then I guess that's just how it is. Whoa, yeah, they're way too high. Holy wow. Okay, that should be a bit better. Enemies out there dying of frenzy. Yeah, so the glow of the thing is making it through to here, which is quite funny. Right, I think I will kill these spiders that are up here. Probably try and kill all of these spiders before I just try and leg it past them. No like of the blood. Those spiders just gonna stay down there. Oh no, they're coming. There. Can I pull them individually and like lame them out? That would be funny. Yeah, I totally can. Alright, I'll pull all the small ones and we can find a big one on the ground. It's me, Janie Bloodsword. Oh, wow, they're getting blueprints for that. Sad. Gun. She gun. Janie Bloodborne loved to gun. Okay. Kill the big spider. Sorry, spider. Has to be this way. Oh no, there was another small one. Oh, well. Whoa, she got magic. Oh yeah, the spiders are magic, aren't they? Forgot about that. I'm gonna leave the big spider behind. Maybe I'm not gonna leave the big spider behind. Maybe I am. Maybe I'll be lucky this time. Okay. Well, guess we're not going to kill the big spider just now. Maybe another time, eh? Maybe another time. I think it's quite a long way to run from the lantern to just do that now. Wow, it moved so fast. That like... I'm not really, I don't generally consider myself to be afraid of spiders, but something that big moving that quickly is, like, unsettling to me on a primal level. Alright, let's see if we can kill this friend. I think this is the place in the game where the baby crying is the loudest. Interesting thing of note here, inside this place, wherever we are, the moon is not red anymore. Interesting. Right, let's see if we can kill this thing. Friend. Whoa, big damage. Roll, roll. Okay. Didn't have to turn around. Where did the echoes go? Ow, ow. Wow, okay. Well, doesn't matter. But really gonna cheer? Damn. Owned. Okay. Well, let's try and bother with even less of that this time. Just try and pass the spiders wholesale. Wait, no, because then they'll gang up on me. And I do want to try and kill that hunter if I can. I think it will make any attempt to get through here even easier, which is something I want. Choices, choices, choices. Are the levels better now, by the way? I hope they are, because I don't know why my computer volume was like twice as high as it normally is, but it's not anymore, so hopefully that's better. Yeah. Nat is in the chat saying, I can't believe enemy hunters taunt you, NPC hunters taunt you with emotes. Yeah, it owns. That's so good. It's so perfect. I mean, you know, fighting, pretty much everything else about fighting the enemy hunters is just ass in this game, but that particularly, extremely good. mob. We could just skip the hunter entirely. I don't really like fighting hunters. Let's try that. Let's see where that gets us. We've not got any soul echoes to try and mise this time. But yeah, as if to, like, I guess, sort of lend credence to my idea that, you know, the natural structure of the spiders is what enables them to grow the eyes and gain insight, is that that big spider can literally cast magic spells, which we've used before with Ebrietas as an indicator of cosmic knowledge. Oh, sword does so much. Wow, heck that. Not gonna do that. I'm not interested in that at all. Where is a lantern? He's not gonna go alone, is he? Nope. Maybe I'll just, like, let him chase me, and then every so often when he rolls, I'll visceral him. That would be fine. Don't do this. Don't do it. Yeah, like the asymmetry, I guess, or rather the fact that the trick weapons are well designed, and the guns as well are designed well for asymmetric combat, shows through pretty extensively when you are fighting NPC hunters, because quite a few of them have like that Rosmarinus and the Hunter's Blunderbuss, which is a big shotgun type weapon, just really unpleasant to deal with. Every time an NPC hunter fires the Hunter's Blunderbuss, you think, great. There was nothing I could do about that. It just takes a whole chunk of your life. It's miserable. So, not being able to move without sort of sheepishly running through here is something. How have you got my blood echoes? Oh, I suppose you spawned there, don't you? Ooh, here we go. This is what we came for. A shortcut. Bye. So yes, chat is very astutely picking up on the visual symbolisms that I want us to think about. So once I can get back up there and clear out the enemies, I will hopefully be able to talk about them, because they're very good. Yeah, I'm going to get up there and try and clear out that room, because it's a good thing to do. In the interest of quick respawns, I'm gonna so new enemy type. Sort of a weird cocktail of visual symbology here, but interesting nonetheless, right? So let's fight one, see what it does. So mostly ignores us, which is good. Not really concerned with us, but definitely patrolling, right? Definitely seeking to establish some kind of order or something. Because they're looking at us. They know we're here, but so far they're not bothered by us. And there's a lot of them. There's a whole lot of them. So yeah, chat has noticed on the floor these eyeballs. Some of them have begun to sprout legs. And look, they have these weird plant-like structures coming out of them. Or maybe like sort of the javelin-y spear things that we were talking about before. Basically, this is why I wanted you to pay attention to the plant texture from before, right? Because this hall, this place of what is apparently great elder knowledge, is like littered with eyes that have, you know, sprouted legs, tried to become like the spiders that spawned them, tried to gain autonomy, and instead been pinned to their place, right? Stuck down by this kind of weird, natural, but ultimately like violent implement. That's kind of cool. And I think that one's only got like 7k of our echoes. I don't think we need to fight these things right now. We're just a guest for the moment. I don't particularly imagine this will last, but this imagery is so cool. It's like weird, like short crusader. Something just yelled. That usually means our time is limited. What's this? A beast blood pellet. Interesting. Oh yeah. Something down there. Oh, yeah, you're just having a big old yell at the wall, aren't you? Weird. So, like, I guess the implication here is that there are so many of these people. They're almost like, there's almost bustle here, which there really hasn't been, because, like, in every other area of Bloodborne, in Central Yharnam, in the Forbidden Woods, in like all of the provincial areas around Yharnam, in the Cathedral Ward, if a group of people are moving, they're all moving in the same direction, right? They're a mob, they're a group, they're all, like, at that time, acting in unison, trying to achieve a singular goal. Whereas here, people are milling around, and occasionally, you know, charging into books. They don't really, like, seem to have anything to do, which is weird. It's uncommon for groups of individuals in the world of Bloodborne. Ooh, there we go. We've managed to make one of them angry. Can we lose them? No, they're coming for us. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, so if we stay away from them, they're not fussed. So, coupled with this, like, almost night-like imagery, do they work here? Are they like the staff? And if so, what is this place really here for? Again, a lot more empty cages. Now with some of them with candles in them. Yes, another thing that the chat has mentioned is that they do call to mind imagery of children. But like, children temp workers with crusader outfits. More blue elixir. So yeah, weird. A very, very weird mood. Not the kind of mood that we've seen any of, really, so far. It's cool. I dig it. So we are going to go downstairs and see what hell awaits us there. So first up, a creature that seems slightly more concerned about us. And indeed, has pulled other things to our attention. Some more Madman's knowledge. Someone died here knowing something really important or really significant about things. I don't know how we're going to conduct this fight with like 6 people. So yeah, they got a lot of health. They didn't do very much damage yet, but they got a lot of health. And this is going from bad to worse. There's a level of them now. Luckily, we do an ass load of damage. That's what we signed up for with Jane Bloodborne's House of Eyeballs, right? Well, guess who else does an ass load of damage? It's Ibrarians. Nat in the chat with Ibrarians. I love it. Thank you. I gained an insight reading that. I heard a fluttering of eyelashes. So this time, in the interest of like, wait, are they all like dispersed to like stations on your spawn? One of them starts like up there, don't they? That's interesting, right? They go from an ordered state to this disordered, like milling about state, which is kind of cool. Enemies in Soulsborne games don't really do that. spend most of their time in exactly one space, waiting for you to come into their carefully laid trap, right? That's pretty much all of the level design in Soulsborne games. So to me, it is really significant, narratively, that at this point they chose not to do that. Okay. This enemy I like. It's a very post-Dark Souls 2 enemy, which is a way that I use to describe all of Bloodborne's enemies that just have really, really extensive tracking on their attacks. It's great. It's a great way of punishing you for thinking that you dodged late enough, which I think is fun. It's not like... It's not necessarily an enjoyable game event, but I like it. It also has a long attack, and then it has a long attack that's clearly telegraphed by its long axe, and then a second, longer attack that's hidden on its chain, which I like. Like, it's not even especially clear that it will attack with its chain, and then when it does, it attacks further than its normal attack, which I like. It's cool. It piles together with the intense damage and tracking on that attack for a real gotcha enemy, which, you know, is not... Well, are we dead? No. Okay. We will be soon, though, especially if we go this way. Okay, I'm not really hurting the blood echoes, so I might just continue. A shattered mirror. Ooh, do you get it? Maybe it was bad fortune to learn as much as we did. Whoop, hello. Right, we're going to grab this, just some lead elixir, and get the holy heck out of here. Have you lead elixir already? No. Shifts weight to deflect attacks. Some postulate it materializes only within the most desperate nightmares. So yeah, just in case you thought this was one of those, you know, chill nightmares, it ain't. It's a desperate one. So what we're about to see is a payoff for, I guess, a setup that we encountered probably in the first hour of this game. Like, do you remember I talked at great length about how the crows and the way that the game communicates to you the monstrosity of the crows is very novel and very interesting. Like, the crows appear to be a perfectly, relatively speaking for the monstrous world of Bloodborne, appears to be a relatively normal feature of nature, right? They are, you know, they're just big crows. But then when you approach them, they scream at you so loudly you flinch. It disarms you. And that's really cool. So what then would you do if you were to, you know, try and make that monstrous? How can you disarm the player again once you've already jump scared them? And the answer is with one of these. No? Not going to come down? Please come down. I just talked so much about you. Ooh, you coming? Jesus. Look at it. I love it. It's at once terrifying and pitiful. It can barely move. Like, wow. Grim. This really is a nightmare. Yes. Like, the fusion of various kinds of monstrosity, like the idea that if previously in the game look at that, fucking horrible. The succumbing of humanity and other life forms to monstrosity was a reach for, if a failure to grasp, the inherent truths of reality, like in different ways, then I guess the nightmare is attempting to show us that, like, maybe, you know, maybe we weren't wrong. Maybe none of us had the full picture. And maybe having the full picture is becoming a horrible crow and a crow dog! They were chewing on a crow dog, but it wasn't dead. Yeah, horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Joy, some platforming. We're never going to fully escape it. It was always waiting for us. You were by my side the whole time. I'm not going to risk that right now. I will eventually, but not right now. And now I'm going to get that shortcut going. Oh, it's pebbles. Always pebbles. I always go for it, and it's always pebbles. Crow dogs. Ugh. I hate the way that the crow dogs, like, the silhouette works so well, because, like, unlike the dog crow, which is clearly like a shambling mess, like, the crow dog still has its, like, figure, I guess, but the silhouette is broken, because the dog's head is wide in a particular way that you're so familiar with, you're so used to, that when it's broken by the uniform slenderness of the crow's head, it looks very, very weird, in a way that I like a lot. Will is in the chat saying, what's impressive is how not cheap this feels. Yeah, I agree. Like, Bloodborne, especially, like, I guess, especially with how unsubtle a lot of its narrative beats are. Like, it's sort of an object lesson in the value of, like, just using your ideas, like, instead of like dressing up your ideas as it in, you know, layers of subtlety, there are values to just knowing what your idea is, having it loud and proud. This is something that David Lynch is really big on, like lots of filmmakers are really big on, and it's great. I love it. It's perfect. And yeah, like because they've done it so. Can I? That's funny, it moves. I didn't even know that. There's never really any use for that, but it's funny. Yeah, like, it's cool. It's really cool. Okay, we have to activate this cage so we can get to this door more easily, because that happens to be interesting to us. Because here we are, at the lantern, which is where we want to be. Right, before we continue, I'm going to pop back to Dante's Dream, spend some of this cold blood that we found, and probably upgrade our pistol. Or level up, if we get enough to level up. Because I love to level up, get some more blood tinge. Smashy, smashy. Always spend cold blood early and often. That's my mantra. That's not going to be enough to level up, is it? Welcome home. Yep.
Very well, then.
Oh, got there. And we'll definitely have enough to upgrade Evelyn, provided we've got the chunks, which I think we have. Okay.
Very well, good hunter.
Fare thee well. How are we doing on blood tinge? 33. That's quite a lot. I think we'll probably stop at 40, but I don't know. Also, there was talk of us getting some more stamina at some point, but I don't know. Damage? I like damage. Make sure our weapons are in good nick. Yes, and yes. No, flip our weapons. Whoop. There we go. We got chunks. I think that's not enough to get us to +8, but it is enough for us. Yeah. Suck. Alright. Can we get any blood gems into there? No. Okay. Well, that's fine. We got some damage. So, yeah. Graham's not here anymore, interestingly enough. now that we've started to uncover some of the nuance and texture in our quest, his line of just kill things, it'll be fine, has kind of peeled away, huh? Oh, I now have fewer than 20 blood vials. That could be a problem. Especially if I'm about to go to where I'm about to go to. This goes to where I'm going now, isn't it? Yes. So yeah, interesting, right? Now we've reached the final gravestone. This wounded structure that is like this is the mark of the end of a person's life, cleft in twain, visibly bleeding. Like, this is the death of death. And we're gonna get right in there. We're gonna stick our hand right up in the death of death and have a feel around. Baby's crying. More spiders. A bridge. Let's just make sure there's nothing that we're missing alongside this bridge. I don't think there is. Okay, well... So, skeletons. Anyone who has quit playing the original Dark Souls probably has some feelings about skeletons, no doubt. But yeah, they're back. The respawning skeletons sure are back. And you know, they're much more explicitly puppet-like in this case. They have that wispy puppet string-like effect on their hands and feet, which is cool. But we're going to ignore them and continue. Because shit, it's about to get wild.
Do you hear our prayers? No, we shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now.
So this is Mikolash, the host of the Nightmare, and he is going to be our area boss. His boss is really interesting actually, because it's like a chase through a labyrinthine space of Mikolash's construction. Like, he is the host of the Nightmare. Everywhere that we are is attributable to him, and we can see him, right? He is wearing Bergenworth robes. He's got a cage on his head, and yeah, like, this is his nightmare we're living in. The nightmare of Mensis that was intended to beckon the moon, right? Like, and it's just really cool. Like, it's as a boss fight, as like an encounter, it reckons with space in a really cool way. That, like a lot of the things that I'm impressed by in Bloodborne, figures narratively as well as figures narratively as well as mechanically in a way that I really like. So yeah, we have to chase him around and around and around until he deigns to reveal this door to us, and then we can fight him properly. Jeez. Ooh, that could kill us. Luckily we do a lot of damage. So this is a very, very high damage, low defense build. Our plan is to kill the enemy before they can kill us. We'll be outlasting nobody. We will win no battles of attrition. Speaking of attrition, we've pretty much run out of blood vials. We did it. He's dead. Or is he?
Majestic! Hunter is a hunter, even in a dream.
I guess not.
But alas, not too fast.
This is Mikolash's realm, and he will not be banished from it so easily. Is this Pathos? It is. Ow.
As you once did for the vacuous one.
Grant us eyes, grant us eyes. That's interesting, right? That is something that I've been hinting at and talking about in adjacent terms extensively this whole time. It's this idea that this entity, let's say, cos, or some say cosm, grant us eyes that we may see. Master Willem says we need eyes to understand. We pray for eyes. I accidentally skipped all that dialogue while I was trying to... Oops. It's like a mirror we can do. We can't go over there yet. Is it? Oh. Is he down here? Yeah, he is. Oh, good address. Right. Did we just fail to heal that? Okay. So yeah. Mikolash has created the nightmare to beckon the moon in an attempt to be granted eyes, to gain an understanding of the cosmos. The cosmos. Again, this is Bloodborne. Subtlety is not our strong suit. But, yeah, whoa. I'm going to finish this boss fight and then we're going to talk about the ideas that Mikolash is sort of clashing and contending with here, because they're good. They're interesting. Should be able to finish this boss fight. If I drop below like 10 blood vials, I'll probably go and get some more. Luckily the enemies here give out a lot of echoes, so it shouldn't be too troubling for us to get more. But hopefully I'll do this boss this time. No! God damn it.
Oh, majestic! A hunter is a hunter.
Okay, well, that's good to know that we can knock him down to half in 2 combos. Oh, I didn't reset the lift again. Oops. So yeah, the interesting thing about this, one of the many interesting things about this boss fight is that, like, getting Mikolash to push him, like, to run to the next zone is, like, not an exact science. Because he'll, generally speaking, run away from you. Sometimes he runs towards you, like here. Sometimes he just runs straight there. Ooh, I'm dead? No, not quite.
Oh, majestic! Hunter is a hunter, even in a dream. But alas, not too fast. Nightmare swirls and churns unending.
Okay, we're going to try and kite these folks a little better than we did last time. Whoop, whoop. Cool. Okay. So, Glash is here. We want him to go there. Doesn't really matter where he goes. He can go to a lot of places. Yeah. He goes through the mirror. I think he comes out down there. Yes. So we need to go on the far side there. My friends of Coldblood. There. Okay. Sorry if this is all moving a little quickly. I want to get it done because it's cool, but you know. So yeah, the problem with this phase of the boss is that that arcane attack just kills us dead if it hits us 3 times.
She once did for the vacuous one.
It's very rude. Come on. Okay.
Now I'm waking up. I'll forget everything.
Mikolash fears not death, but forgetting. Hey NCIS Vancouver. Yeah, we're using the Chicago. The Chicago is level 9. We'll be able to max fortify it soon. The reason that boss looked so... Ooh, I didn't even mean to do that. The reason I made that boss look so easy is because our damage is unreasonably high. We fought a boss much earlier than we should have and got a very high scaling weapon for a very bad stat that once you get it past a certain threshold is very, very, very good. So we've had a rough time early in the game. In the late game, we're very, very strong. Right, so Mikolash drops the Immensus Cage, which he was wearing on his head. And we are going to do the same, because it's cool, just for now. Oh wait, I lack the necessary... Wait. No? Why can't I? Oh, I can't use it to equip it. Look at that. Ooh. It's a look. It's not a crown, but it's close to a crown. So, we talked a lot about the Mensis Cage before. We talked a lot about the idea that... maybe the Mensis Cage, like... Oh, sorry, this cage, these cages that we found on the heads of many, like, dead people in Yahar'gul, or as we called it at the time, the Hypogean jail. Like, what were they trying to keep in? Because they probably weren't trying to keep anything out, right? That's not what cages are for. So let's read about the Mensis Cage and see what it has to say. The School of Mensis controls the unseen village, which is Yahar'gul, for anyone who doesn't remember. This hexagonal iron cage suggests their strange ways. The cage is a device that restrains the will of the self, allowing one to see the profane world for what it is. It also serves as an antenna that facilitates contact with the Great Ones of the dream. But to an observer, the iron cage appears to be precisely what delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. So this, the reason I've waited this long to talk about the way that, like, the pursuit of knowledge and, like, these ideas that, the School of Mensis and the, you know, all this stuff with Bergenworth and the eyes and stuff, is because here is where it really coalesces into a single continuous picture. So, over the course of that boss fight, Mikolash makes multiple appeals to Kos, or as some call them, Cosm, and how, just as Cosm did for the vacuous Rom, they ought to be granted eyes. Now, like I was saying, Master Willem too mentioned a necessity that we must be granted eyes, that we must learn the Great One's wisdom for the betterment of ourselves. Now, hang on, I don't know if it says this. Hang on, let's talk about it. Right, so what do we know about Bergenworth? We know that at some point, Rom, who was at the time a scholar at Bergenworth, made contact with something that we later found out to be called Ebrietas. Now, at the time, everyone at Bergenworth was psyched about this. They had learned about the outer realms. They'd learned about, you know, the nature of the universe beyond their own limited picture. So they were psyched. They were all about it. We needed more eyes. We're not thinking on a high enough plane to understand this question. But later on, like, as we saw, Willem would come to abandon this idea. He would say that actually this study is, you know, something that is going to be of detriment to us. We're going to lose ourselves to it. But Lawrence said no. Lawrence instead said that, like, research on the old blood should continue. And the establishment of the School of Mensis is the remnants of this today, right? It's these ideas, this like the desire to be granted eyes, much like Rom was. Now, we met Rom. Rom was not looking particularly happy about her particular state of being, though interestingly, she is described as vacuous, right? She's not Rom the angry spider, Rom the sad spider, Rom the vacuous spider. Rom is left empty by what she has learned because, well, for all manner of potential reasons. Like, it's really difficult to say why Rom feels the way she does about the great level of knowledge she has acquired. But nevertheless, she has acquired it, and Mikolash and the Scholars of Mensis want to follow in her steps and establish contact with the Great Ones through this antenna, what we have found.
May you find your worth in the waking world.
And I guess, like, just finding this and like identifying it as a point of contact with the real world, like, not the real world. Why did I say that? As a point of contact with the Great Ones is like, it brings forth these ideas about the so for example, the granting of eyes, like this meter that I've been talking about semi-obliquely for the entire stream in the top right corner, the insight, like, and the way that the cage of Mensis works, like the way that it looks, the function that it serves as an antenna for this contact, like it all flows together in this particular moment. Like Mikolash seeks knowledge of the cosmos, of Cosm. He seeks knowledge of the power hierarchy of the universe. He seeks, greater knowledge, and as we saw, it's all he seeks. He doesn't care about waking up from the dream, except for the fact that it will cause him to forget, which he doesn't want to do.
Welcome home.
So, like, what it does is it reveals the idea of insight, the idea of elder knowledge, but also like just the stat meter of insight. Like nothing about the naming or design. I just pointed at my screen. You can't even see me. That's how I feel about this. Like nothing about that is by accident. It's an eye because we seek to be granted eyes, and like it's insight. It's sight from within, but it's also eyeballs growing on your brain, which is cool as hell. Like, I mean, you can think about it abstractly if you like, but you can also think about it as, here we are with 55 eyeballs kicking about on the inside of our brains. And like, as we've seen with the scholars at Bergenworth, that were the gardens of eyes, as the game files call them, like, eventually your head cannot contain this knowledge. Eventually it spills forth from within your head, potentially transforming you to something as monstrous as Rom was. So, what do? You put a cage on your head. You stop it from exploding out. You keep it in. And in doing so, you focus it into contact with a higher power. And I think that's cool as hell. We don't have enough. We can sell some Bloodstone shards, come on. Yes. We really need to sell 2. $35 blood tinge, quite a lot. So now that we've killed Mikolash, the nightmare is unstable, but it still remains. It's still there. So we need to think of some way to, well, we can continue through that area. But let's see. It's 11:30 now. So I think what I will do is I will go back to Old Faithful Central Yharnam, and we will see what has become of our favourite place. And I will talk about the ways in which this revelation about the nature of insight, the nature of knowledge of the universe, like, I'll talk about the implications that has for the power struggle that we have sort of viewed, I guess, this entire time, and also the the effect that has on the various themes. So already getting off to a lightning start. This guy. Now, anybody remember this enemy design? It sure is something from Old Yharnam, right? This is our watchword for forgotten, downtrodden relics of the past. And it was never here before. Why is it here now? Well, let's kill it so we can... What does it have for us? A Clawmark rune. Now, what does the Clawmark rune do? Strengthens visceral attacks. So that is something that we will be looking at with great interest when we get back to the workshop. Now, about 20 hours ago, we had a conversation with someone. I believe they were a hunter. They were certainly not from inside Yharnam at this window. And with time, the hunt claimed them. They became monstrous. Interestingly, a different kind of monstrous to the rest of the residents of Centurianum, but monstrous nonetheless. And if this was a sad end for our friend, I can't remember their name, sadly, it was too long ago now, but this is going to set a tone for the rest of our encounters throughout Centurianum. It turns out that the Mensis ritual has not been particularly kind to people who we've met. Unnecessary visceral attack. I love it. These things have blood vials generally, right? We want those. Wow, you just don't do any damage anymore. And this is neat, right? It's neat. I mean, it's an RPG, it happens, but it's neat that these enemies remain like this, because there are a couple of types of enemy that actually escalate in power as the night advances. But these enemies stay pretty much the same, so you can come here and just sweep through and think, wow, I've come so far. And having come so far, like, it's very common as a mechanical arc for RPGs of all kinds. But in Bloodborne it has a special significance that we are going to investigate. Now, what is the fastest way to the place I want to go to? I haven't been here in a while. Gilbert. Claire has helpfully in the chat notified us of our friend's name. Rest in peace, Gilbert. I'm sorry it had to come to that. So there was someone there. I can't remember if we told them where safety was, but well, they're not responding now. Notice that, wait, where's the... Okay, well, next time we go past the door without a red lantern, but a regular lantern, I'll see if this is actually the kind of thing I'm looking for. But, yeah. What up? See? We were terrified of those enemies 2 weeks ago. Well, 2 weeks ago, it's actually quite a lot longer than that now. But now they can barely start up an attack against us. All we used to think about was how to stagger those enemies. But now, who cares? Yeah, so Katsroy is in the chat asking if the cathedral is where I want to go. I am going to the cathedral eventually, not just yet. There is one place I have to go first. A conclusion to a particular plotline. But where? How? Oh, rude. Oh. You like not? Getting owned. Getting owned by system mechanics. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. How I've missed you, regular crows. So this is where I was going. Remember this house? This was Father Gasquagny's house, and when we were here last, we had just told Gasquagny's daughter that his mother had died. Her mother had died trying to reason with her father, who we had just killed.
You haven't by any chance seen my little sister, have you? I told her to look after the house, but she's run off somewhere. She's still quite small, and wears a big white ribbon. Have you seen her out there anywhere?
We haven't.
Okay then. But if you do see her, would you give me word? She's a small girl, with a big white ribbon. My good little sister.
So, Gasquagny's youngest daughter, we've just found out, has gone walkabout. But where? But where? As ever, we're about to find out. Folks, it gets so much worse from here. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, loud voice. Hello, pig, old friend. That's peculiar. Oh, hang on. A red ribbon? But what could it mean? Where is it? How do they sort the items in this game? Has anyone figured it out? Oh, is it just not here? Is it a key item? Yes. That's not a red ribbon. That's a white ribbon. A thick, pungent red, drawn from the organs of some unfortunate victim. Unfortunately, Gasquagny's youngest daughter didn't make it either. Oh dear. Considering what happened to the youngest daughter when we told her that her parents were dead, maybe we'll just let the eldest daughter sit this one out. Oh. Just you know, maybe she's better off not knowing, really, if we're being honest with ourselves. Oh yeah. Pig is always there, so it probably did eat Gasquagny's youngest daughter. Thanks for pointing that one out in chat, Catsroy. You're completely right. I'd sooner die than loot that loot that lamp? I mean, I guess I'm not going to loot it either, but I'm not lighting it, that's for sure. So, and now, we once again, perhaps for the last time, ascend to Eden Chapel. Erden Chapel, god damn it. But who's this? Now, do you remember last time we came to Erden Chapel? And our friend Ariana? No. Yeah, Ariana, the Lady of the Night, was having some trouble, some cramps, some pains? Yeah. Remember I said that this game's perspective on women is not broad enough to conceive of too many ways in which women could be in pain?
It can't be. This is a nightmare.
So, yeah. How about that? That's not a... I mean... No, it's pretty grim, huh? The interesting things that... I'm not just gonna act on this either. I'm just gonna tell you that basically, even at this point, there are tiny details that I want you to remember. So this thing has this sea creature imagery that we're so fond of pointing out, right? It's got suckers on its face. Not only that, but it has two kind of prehensile limbs at the front and just a tail at the back. It also has two sort of vestigial, barely formed wings, which, you know, kind of angelic, but in this context, maybe not especially, you know, not that much. So, we're gonna put our friend Ariana out of her misery. Oh, we hit Ariana. Oh no. I didn't mean for that to happen. My gun was too powerful. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm gonna graciously accept your shoes. But finishing this thing off has certain rewards. God, I'm so sorry. Why did that happen? Why was the hitbox so big? I tried so hard. I was pointing over this way. Oh, Soulsborne, why must you punish me for my hubris? I think it is possible to spare her. Maybe they are linked. I don't know. No, I don't know. Anyway. I'm a terrible person. And we got our third umbilical cord. Every great one loses its child, and then yearns for a surrogate. The third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. Insight, so they say, eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what that truly entails. We know what that truly entails now. We know quite intimately what that entails. So, yeah. Ariana had given birth to some kind of horrifying cosmos child that, when we killed it, gave us a little bit of deity birthing apparatus. And this is something that, like, I don't know, Bloodborne's relationship to women is not perfect, but it is at least interesting, the way in which... So, let's think about these thirds of umbilical cord, right? They are, so far, like, they're pretty much like the flesh of God, right? They are the closest to divinity that we have come so far, apart from, quote-unquote, partially summoning Ebrietas with the Augur of Ebrietas. Like, these thirds of umbilical cords are explicitly the distended bit of deity itself, right? And it's just interesting the ways in which these items are found throughout the game. We find one abandoned in a facsimile of the Hunter's Dream that we, or rather, you know, the real location of which the Hunter's Dream is itself a facsimile. And then we find one in the cosmos child of a sex worker, right? Like, that's interesting. It's interesting that Bloodborne chooses that vector as a way to present the player with the closest to divinity they get in a world surrounded by people trying to emulate, trying to reach divinity. It is interesting the ways in which Bloodborne chooses to provide you with concrete examples of that. Like, everyone else around you would probably like lose their nut for a little bit of you know, umbilical cord, but we found one kicking around, and we got one from you know, killing a weird alien fetus.
Ah, the hunter. Thank you. So that holy woman, you well, she don't. I'd rather see.
More gestures. How are we doing for gestures? We got this one. Not bad. We got this one. We got this one. Nice. We got this one. What's this one like? I don't mind that one very much. We got this one. Oh, I quite like that one. Let's change this one. Oh, no. Change this one. What cool gestures have we got? We like sit down. We've used sit down before. How does triumph look? Just a quick little fist pump. Okay. Well, anyway. We'll do that more later. Gestures will turn out to have something of a narrative significance in a little while. Where is the nun? Is she? There she is. Hello. Well, instance 11,000 that instance 11,000 of NPCs just having a chuckle at us when all we want to do is chat. So yeah, things aren't going too well for the residents of Yharnam. Our friend, the half-height creature, is you know, they're still kicking, but other than that, things are pretty grim. Things could be a lot better for the residents of Central Yharnam. But there's one we have still to visit. One remains. And it's one of the most interesting. One of the ones I like the most. Now, knowing what we know now about the order of the cosmos, the hierarchy of power, this idea of kin, this idea of old blood, this idea of great ones, do we remember where we first found this hint of deific beings, of creatures from beyond? We found them in the Forbidden Woods on a path that led to Yosefka's clinic. Not there. Not there. Did we not get a lantern? I'm sure we got a lantern. First of all, sick room. Church of the Good Chalice. Graveyard of the Dark Beast. Where is this lantern? I'm sure it's here somewhere. It's not like here, is it? No. Maybe we didn't get a lantern. Maybe we are going to have to go around. Oh, Forbidden Grave. No, that's where the shadows are. Oh yeah, that's right, I've opened up the shortcut. Oh, maybe I haven't opened up the shortcut. Well, if I haven't opened up the shortcut, we'll find out, I guess. But yes, we are going to Yosefka's clinic because the onset of the Menzies ritual and the advanced state of disarray and chaos in Central Yharnam has advanced Yosefka's position in the world. Now, if you remember, the last time we came to Yosefka's clinic, she, as soon as we went into her atrium, she demanded that we leave, but yeah, she demanded that we leave, but ultimately, oh hey, the door's open. No wait, the door's not open. It's up there, isn't it? Right, okay. she demanded that we leave, so we did. But where we expected to find her looking at the door, beckoning us to come in, as you know she did right at the beginning of the game, we found a kin, an outer being, a sort of mushroom-looking fellow who cast magical spells and tried to kill us. So that's peculiar. And as the moon approaches the Earth, as the cosmos gets closer to us, I wonder, have these cosmic beings gotten closer to Yosefka? Has Yosefka gotten closer to them? We shall see. And then we shall know. What up, Shane? Don't suck my brains. Pebbles. I know it's pebbles. So over this way was the front door, where we found that kin. And there it is. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I feel like the number of kin in here, in the entrance that Yosefka tells you is safe, that you should tell people about if you ask her, I believe the number of kin in this room correlates with the number of people you tell to come to this clinic. Hey look, it's that note. The one that we found when we woke up. Interesting, huh? Interesting. Interesting that this place, Yosefka's clinic, interesting that Yosefka herself, clearly, or, you know, some, it's Yosefka's blood vial. Whoa, whoa. That's what Yosefka gives you when you give her, you tell her there are people here. But, yeah, so, interesting that our whole reason for going on this quest, interesting that our entire motivation for being here was put here by Yosefka. Someone who we found out almost immediately we couldn't trust. Someone who is clearly consorting with these weird mushroom folks. What does she have to say for herself, I wonder? Hey, Rotated 000, welcome to the stream. Chat is telling me that the increased number of kin is in a different room. Fair enough. But nonetheless, the theme remains. Or the thing remains, I guess. There's a kin on an operating table? We found this last time, didn't we? Yeah. Like, clearly someone, probably Yosefka, has been doing some looking into these kin. Yo, those Bloodborne Twitch emotes, I love them. Now, as soon as we stepped foot in this room last time, Yosefka said, "Oi, hop it," and we did. But now, nothing. She doesn't even acknowledge that we're here. I wonder why. Nothing like a bit of grotesque twitching to convey that someone is maybe not how they ought to be.
God, I'm nauseous. Have you felt this? It's progressing. I can see things. I knew it. I'm different. I'm no beast. Oh, God, it feels awful. But it proves that I'm chosen. Don't you see how they writhe inside my head? It's rather rapturous.
Don't you see how they writhe inside my head? It's agony, but it's rapturous. The pain of knowing, the pain of having eyes on the inside is... She's she's very clearly conflicted as to whether it's even worth it. How can you go home again when you know that... Oh, sorry, how can you go home again when the journey changes your very understanding of the nature of being? You can hear them writhe inside your head. You will never know peace again. Knowledge rattles around inside your brain. Changes you. Leaves you prostrate on this table. What was the other thing she said? She said one other thing. I can't remember. Oh yeah. Another thing that okay, so actually sorry, the first thing is that it threads into what I was saying to you earlier, that actually we need to progress from this scene to talk about that, don't we? Okay, so the other thing I was going to say is it is worthy of note, worth remembering, putting in your little memory journals, that Yosefka asks us if we have felt this. Because, you know, here we are. We're no beast. Or it doesn't look like it anyway. We're not a horrible werewolf creature. But similarly, we're not sort of twitching on an operating table, having a giggle about how many eyes we can hear writhing around inside our brains, you know, cohabitating with strange blue mushroom people. So, why haven't we felt this? What's different about us? We'll find out. But that's purposeful. It is worthy of remembering that Yosefka asks you if you too have heard the eyeballs writhe. But for now... Yosefka has something we want. And, you know, she wasn't very nice, so we're just gonna take it. It's another umbilical cord. So, yeah. How about that, then? It is very, very interesting that Bloodborne chooses... So, someone mentioned when we first found a piece of umbilical cord that actually there are 4/3 umbilical cord, but that's fine, we found 3, so we can pretend there are just 3. Now, it is very interesting that the flesh of God themselves, like, the closest that, like, every other physical representation of divinity that we've found is the residue of people who have come close to knowing it. We know it. We have it in our hands. We could, you know, rub it on our faces if we wanted to. We are quite close to God here. And it is very interesting that the people, the ways in which Bloodborne chooses to convey to you closeness to God, closeness to understanding, closeness to, like, the kind of, I guess, the kind of spiritual and, you know, scientific purity of a closeness to an understanding of divinity is through finding something in an old abandoned workshop, though near the soul of this doll that you have come to be, you know, fond of. One of them is taken from the freshly born cosmic child of a sex worker and another one is ripped from the body of a scientist. Both of them women. That's interesting. Bloodborne being a game that doesn't really put too much effort into establishing, like, I guess the place of women in its power hierarchies, because like so much of this game so far has been talking about the idea of like a sequence of events chronicled by the relationships between men, like Lawrence, Willem, Alfred, and Logarius, and all of these people, like, you know, they're just, and Graham, like, and Gisquagny even, you know, they're all dudes. But like, not only do we have these brushes with greatness coming explicitly from women, but also Rom, before she was a horrible giant spider, was a woman. Like, that's interesting. So yeah, that was our umbilical cord sideshow. I hope you enjoyed. What time is it? Oh, it's 10 past. Right. So I think what I will do is... Can I open this door now? Yes. I think what I will do is I will do my thing where I talk about power relations, and then I will, as I walk us to the next location of the game, we'll have a look at it, we will talk about where we're about to go, and then probably scuttle on off. But for now, we have a little bit more blooding to mourn. So, we're going to go to the... Where are we going to go to? Erdon Chapel, I think? Hang on. I cannot remember where that is. I think it's at the top of the abandoned workshop, maybe? I don't know. Oh yeah, the rune. Thank you for reminding me, chat. I'm going to put that claw mark rune on and get plus 20% damage to visceral attacks. Which one am I going to replace? Visceral attacks restore HP, higher blood vial maximum, and acquire more blood echoes. Well, I like that one. This one seems bad. Oh, no. Acquire more blood echoes, right. That one. This one's actually completely unnecessary, so let's get the claw mark rune on. There. Okay, yes. Wait, no, I'm missing a rune now? Hang on. This slot system is very confusing. No. So I have the claw mark rune equipped. I have the moon rune equipped. But that's it. Right. Okay. So we have visceral attack damage up. Right, okay. Okay. Where's that? So. So. Right. We are going to go to the Cathedral Ward, have a wander around, and I'm going to talk about power structures, because I love to do that. So, this is going to get pretty heavy into, like, the themes of Bloodborne, so, I don't know. That's fine. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. I hope it's what you're here for, because it's what you're about to get. So, I talked, must have been a number of streams ago now, about the ways in which this game differentiates itself from the work of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, right? Like, I talked about how H.P. Lovecraft's work was routinely racist, trite, and tedious, all while talking about this idea of cosmic horror that Bloodborne clearly is very interested in. Now, Bloodborne's cast is not very broad, so, like, it's still not great, in fact, actively bad, that, like, pretty much everyone in Yharnam, generally speaking, seems to be pretty white. But, like, I would argue that, thematically speaking, even though it draws on the same visual language, the same visual language and the same sort of storytelling elements, I guess, that the work of H.P. Lovecraft does, I would argue that Bloodborne ultimately comes to a very, very different set of conclusions. And all the ideas that we've encountered today kind of feed into what I would consider that reading. Now, this is not to say that Bloodborne is not without its peculiar obsessions. It certainly has those. Peculiar obsessions, for one, being the, just absolute dogged fascination with birth imagery and, like, an implicit monstrosity entailed by femininity, right? Bloodborne is very, very, very concerned with this idea. I mean, that's neat. I didn't realize you could see down there from here. That's very, very cool. If you look down there, you can see an area you can go to. But Bloodborne, ultimately, I would say, comes to a very different conclusion that the work of H.P. Lovecraft does. Like, and the way that, I guess, this read, if you would call it that, sort of starts to emerge, I would say, is from meeting with Mikolash, meeting with the sort of, meeting with Yosefka, meeting with Ariana, and, like, where we're about to go. Like, all of these attempts to reach a higher understanding, their results and their unintended side effects are, like, ultimately Bloodborne's thesis, right? And where Lovecraft's thesis was often, wouldn't it be weird to find out that you were related to a black person, Bloodborne's thesis is quite different. So we have this, like, systemic level pursuit of knowledge, this idea to understand, this idea to gain a deeper knowledge of, let's see, the sky and the cosmos are one, eh? To gain a deeper knowledge of humanity's place in the universe and, like, their relation to potentially greater powers. Now, the thing about those potentially greater powers is that, as we've seen, there have been various levels of contact with them, right? And, like, it's said by a lot of people who really like to talk about science and knowledge theatrically that, like, all science is an aim to get closer to God, but God in, like, I guess an abstract context, like, rather than a deity itself, just an understanding of the nature of being and the nature of how we came to be made. Like, when you're thinking about knowledge and learning, like, ultimately, why do I exist is a question often without any real satisfactory answer. So, like, it makes sense that that would be a question that these people sought to answer, right? So, like, all these pursuits of knowledge, this attempt to gain eyes, to gain insight, to gain an understanding and contact with the Great Ones is an attempt to get closer to God. And the imagery of associating the gods with the stars is not a mistake, it's not accidental. Like, that's very, very intentional. Because the thing is that, like, in 2015, I guess, when this game came out, like, humanity's understanding of the cosmos itself, like, extra to the game, is like, maybe not more comprehensive, but I guess a lot, like, from a pop culture perspective, it's a lot more textured, it's, like, slightly more nuanced. Like, not everyone, but, like, a lot of people know now that we came from star stuff, right? We came from space. Everything that we are came from cosmic events that, you know, exist on scales that humans just can't even mentally work with. We have to reduce it down to numbers and algebra to even, like, attempt to understand it. And, like, the ultimate consequence of that is that we know now where we came from, and the answer is not enough for a lot of people. Like, all there really is that we came from the stars. So this idea of conflating the stars with gods in Bloodborne is purposeful, and we seek to get, like, these people in the Mensis ritual back in Bloodborne. They seek to get closer to the stars. They seek to get closer to the things that they don't understand, and feel that by understanding they can bring themselves closer to God. And this again is where our obsession, or Miyazaki's obsession with birth imagery comes from, right? Like, humanity, as such as it is, was born amongst the stars. So, like, this intentional association of like the stars and the womb, the place of birth, is like, it's a very clear symbolic parallel. It's important to, you know, Miyazaki's interpretation of, or at least Bloodborne's interpretation of the idea of creation, that these things are directly related. But the problem emerges, and this is one of the ways in which, like, Bloodborne, I guess, maybe not condemns, but sort of passes judgment upon the different people who sought to gain knowledge of its universe, right? Like, the problem with this pursuit of knowledge, and the way in which particularly Byrgenwerth, and we will soon find the Church, though they've done it in different ways, they've effectively done similar things, right? In seeking out this knowledge, in seeking out this understanding, the Mensa scholars and the choir are trying to get closer to God, closer to the stars, closer to their own, effectively their own histories, right? Like, you know, if you go all the way back, you trace it all the way back to the literal matter you are made of in the heavens, like, that's history. That's your past, and you can't avoid reckoning with that past if you intend to learn this thing. But the problem, and the reason that we end up with these grisly failures, like, you know, the one reborn and Mikelash's nightmare, is that Byrgenwerth, and we will soon find out the Church, explicitly seek to understand their origins, their place in the universe. They seek to get closer to God, without first understanding the people who were literally closer to God than they were. And the way that they fail to do that is by actively rejecting their history. By putting everything into this struggle for knowledge, by putting everything into this investigation into the cosmos, they feel as though they must perpetuate these power structures that subdue various iterations of an older Yharnam in favor of maintaining a facsimile, a facade of the status quo. And the problem with that is that for every generation of Yharnamites you leave behind, you literally get further and further away from the state of your birth. Bloodborne passes judgment on those who would trample on I guess, you know, the sort of those who would trample on the proletariat of their history in order to achieve greatness for themselves that they believe is greatness for their whole species, by telling them that they will be definitionally unable to do so until they can do so in a way that is intersectional with those people. For as long as they are leaving people behind, sacrificing them in grand rituals to pull the moon closer to gain understanding for themselves, they cannot achieve the understanding that they seek. Instead, it is monstrous to them. It manifests itself as the remains and viscera of the people that they have sacrificed to get there, and they cannot reconcile themselves with this truth. But there is someone who can. Maybe. PlayStation's making a lot of noise trying to render this area. So chat has astutely pointed out that these critters look remarkably like that thing what our friend Ariana gave us. For us. As we get closer to the heavens, these creatures, they become more numerous. Again, Upper Cathedral Ward's placement. Not an accident. Not an accident. Do you remember that? Do you remember we saw that like 20 hours ago? I saw it from like way lower in the Cathedral Ward, and I thought to myself, wow, it's really cool that that's visible from here. We're gonna go there. But not today. So, yeah, let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of wind, huh? Okay. In that case, yeah, that seems like a reasonable place to call an end to the stream. So, thank you everyone for coming to this. Probably the... a very late in the run episode of James Bloodborne's House of Bibles. I don't know. No, next week is not going to be the last episode. Maybe the week after will be. We're really close to the end, folks. It's happening. It's really happening, and I hope that's obvious because you know it's all coming to a head. All these themes, they're running together now. I can finally just say what I mean rather than you'll have to wait 20 hours for the next one. But that's enough from me. So I hope you enjoyed. We'll be back next Wednesday, just like we are every Wednesday. Thank you everyone for coming down. Thank you for, I don't know if there were any bits or anything, but if there were, thanks very much. So yeah. Thank you everyone for coming to this episode of James Bloodborne's House of Bibles. We'll see you on Monday if you are going to come around for another episode of Green Chill Zone, and on Wednesday if you're back for James Bloodborne's House of Bibles. So yeah, I'll change monitors, and that is it from me. Thank you very much.